you, dear Philip, and the Elektrohand Gottes for this captivating, don't you think so captivating rendition of Goethe's Erlkönig. It's a ballad of full speed, fear, and ambiguity. A child senses danger, the father tries to explain it away, and between them lies a terrible gap in perception. Don't you think that feels surprisingly close to the world we are discussing today? We will discuss today. Interesting, isn't it? It was interesting. It was a wake-up call. It was give us a sense of something. It feels surprisingly close to the world we are discussing today. AI gives us more signals, more patterns, more predictions than any other technology ever before. But the question is not only what technology can detect, it is whether we understand what we are seeing, understanding what we are seeing, whether we trust the interpretation, whether we feel empowered to do so, and whether we dare, very important, whether we dare to ask questions. That's why we are here today, to learn and to dare to ask questions. As some of you know that DLD always has been about following the transformation of our worlds alongside technological progress. We try to understand where the next shifts are coming from, who is shaping them, and what might it mean for society, for business, and for the way we live. AI is the technology that is presently most transformative. And in medicine, life science, and healthcare, the power of AI is fast becoming very concrete and tangible. Concrete and tangible. It touches our body, our brains. Care, aging, it touches diagnosis, care, aging, prevention, and ultimately the questions of what it means to live healthier and also a longer life. This is, by the way, very, very personal for us at DLD. We are part of Hubert Burda Media, a company that has long believed that media can do much more than report on transformation. It can trigger it and help shape the public conversation around it. In fact, the legacy in health goes back more than 30 years. Already in 1995, some of you have been in kindergarten then, or some of you haven't been born then. In 1995, the Burda Academy convened a conference here in Munich titled Mind Revolution, Interface, Brain, Computer. 1995. That's very early, don't you think so? Who of you have been there? You are so young. You are the Gen Zs. This conference brought together brain researchers, computer scientists, AI experts, and philosophers to discuss the emerging fields of neurotechnology, its possibilities, and its ethical boundaries. Burda, the company I'm working for, also helped translate medical and technological breakthroughs to broader professional and public audiences, including early experiments in telemedicine and even the live transmission of minimal invasive procedures. This was 96 in Nuremberg, the big medical medicine congress. Remember, Markus? You just went in 10th class or so. It was an amazing conference, and somehow it changed also my life. And this was also groundbreaking. In '96, Burda's Health online service, a platform for doctors, researchers, and specialists audience, was presented at the World Wide Web Conference in Paris. Tim Berners-Lee, who of you have heard about Tim Berners-Lee? The father of the World Wide Web called our DLD Health online service one of the highlights of modern internet development. It made us very proud. So the questions we are asking today about AI, digital health, brain-computer interfaces, and the future of medicine are not entirely new territory for DLD and BAIOSPHERE. They continue a tradition of bringing science, media, public understanding together, and art, by the way. This is also what you have seen is done in the background of the performance. It was done by Anne Kokos-Jung, our DLD designer. So art is important to us. It's important because art inspires us. Art is very often the catalyst for new things in society. So it's a mixture. DLD Health and BAIOSPHERE is not a detour. It's a continuation. At a moment when health, just like 30 years ago, is being transformed again by technology. Now, my friends, I'm proud and happy to let me hand over to my good friend, longtime friend, for 14 years we worked together, and colleague, Alessia, to speak about the future. By the way, also about her future. She is my co-managing partner now, and I'm very proud that we are so close. Come.
Thank you, Steffi. And indeed, health is being transformed by AI in an unprecedented way. And when a technology comes this close to us, we have to understand it better. We need a more enlightened public conversation about the potential AI will unleash in health. That's why we gathered you all here today. Our objective is not to give you a complete map of the entire transformation. That would be impossible in one day. But we want to look at the developments that feel especially relevant, urgent, and full of possibilities. Not with blind optimism, but with curiosity, in typical DLD manner. Not with hype, but with substance. And not by pretending that every problem has already been solved, but by asking better questions about what should come next. What happens when we bring AI out of the lab and into clinics, in workflows, hospitals, companies, and everyday lives? How will brain-computer interfaces, Rainer, Professor Meyer, how will this change our life? How will this change organoids, robotics, and personalized health, the way we also understand medicine? And how do we build trust? I see Niels here in the audience. How do we build trust with AI-driven healthcare? These are not just technical questions. They are deeply human ones. Because in healthcare, progress is never just about capability. It is also about responsibility and judgment. It is about the institutions we trust, about the systems we build and disrupt, and the lives we want technology to support. AI in health gives us more data, more context, more speed, and more signals. But all this more doesn't constitute intelligence. Intelligence is the ability to act on what we know within systems we truly understand. So the question is not just whether AI can make today's healthcare faster, more precise, and more efficient. It is also whether AI can help us rethink the limits of the healthcare systems that we built. A system, if you think about it, that is still more around disease and less about well-being, that is organized in silos, too slow to make change, and shaped like any other system, ultimately to sustain itself. So we built it. That also means we can change it together. This is why a conference like this has to connect what really belongs together. The big breakthroughs ahead will not come from one discipline alone. They will happen at the intersections. between AI and biology, medicine and engineering, research and entrepreneurship, clinics and companies, public institutions and private capital. And perhaps even more broadly between systems that we still look at separately, like health, food, water, ecology, and climate. All of them shape human health. All of them constitute planetary health. In the end, this is not just about us humans. It is about our common living space, our planet. And I urge you, this is a very important line, I urge you to always link this to the planetary health perspective as well, all what you're hearing today. AI could help us see these connections more clearly, how air quality affects asthma, or how heat changes disease patterns, how nutrition influences prevention, and how the places we live in the end determine the lives we can lead. As most of you know, at DLD, we believe that this kind of cross-pollination, I mean, look around you, connecting people who would otherwise never meet, forging new alliances, asking new questions, and finding new solutions. This is your task today. This brings me to our much valued partners who have brought their great expertise into this conference. A big thank you to BrainLab, Rainer. A big thank you to Acton Capital Partners, to Hypovereinsbank, UniCredit, to Edelman, to Sixt, and to the Global Health Investment Corporation for their support, their trust, and their content contributions, without which DLD would not be possible. And we are especially happy to host this DLD together with BAIOSPHERE. The Bavarian AI network connects leading players from science, business, and society to strengthen Bavaria as a center for AI research, applications, and responsible development. Through your push, dear Michael, where's Michael? Through your push, Michael, and your amazing team, we've been able to gather today here 15 outstanding professors and scientists from Bavarian universities and research institutions. Everyone from BAIOSPHERE, stand up quickly who's in the room. So thank you, guys. I mentioned earlier that breakthrough ahead will not come from one discipline alone, but through strategic alliances. This certainly goes for BAIOSPHERE and the international DLD community as well. Together, we have a very special opportunity, and we have that opportunity now, to enable scientific breakthroughs while also building a strong, future-oriented and science-based economy. That's our chance. This is the promise we want to explore together with all of you here today. So once again, a big warm welcome from Steffi and myself to this year's DLD Health and BAIOSPHERE. Thank you. So let us begin with the first impulse by Fabian Theis, not only one of Europe's leading minds at the intersection of artificial intelligence, biomedicine, and computational health, but also a true visionary who saw the beauty and benefits of our collaborative action early on. As a head of Helmholtz Computational Health Center, scientific director of the Helmholtz AI, and the chair of the Bavarian AI Council, Fabian is helping to move AI from abstract promise to real-world impact. And what makes his work so outstanding is not only the scientific excellence behind it, but his scale of ambition, really. Using AI to understand life at cellular resolution and ultimately translate that knowledge into better health outcomes. Please, everyone, give a big hand up for Fabian Theis.
Hey guys, thanks for sort of being allowed to put a little bit of the science now on top of that. So when Alessia said everyone from BAIOSPHERE stand up, right, I would have hoped all Bavarian AI people raise chance next time, okay? So we're doing this for everyone. We're doing a health one this day, right? I think modern medicine, and I think for the longest time a physician's job, Matthias, maybe you can comment on that, has been observation, right? So I would say you look at symptoms, you look at patients, look at disease progression, but then you act and make decision. But I think this very successful paradigm for a year, for a decade, or maybe like let's say for a century, this has been, I think, witnessing a really major shift. I think the major shift is that with AI, we can now really build actual acting models that sit behind that. The first sort of, some call it ChatGPT moment in biology, was that wave of building foundational representations, right, of proteins, cells, of organs, and whole patients at really unprecedented scales, like representations that allow you sort of to move around like you would sort of build a Google map of the world. It just describes things first. And I think a lot of stuff came out of that, but I think, and this you might not maybe be so much aware, there was a second, we call it maybe also ChatGPT moment. This just happened sort of late last year. This was when the models didn't just sort of build a map, an atlas, but they actually told you how to act upon it. So this agentic thing has become a reality. Programming, coding has been kind of solved. Every one of us is nowadays sort of using an agent to do that. This is major. So you don't just sort of describe but you sort of add the action to it. And I do like action. So I think having this idea of a model that allows you to simulate the world, this is one of the new terms. So while you sort of have heard foundation models for a while, the new thing that's sort of being thrown around at pretty much all of the major AI conferences is called world model. A model that doesn't describe only state, but action, allows you to simulate the next thing and thereby sort of learn about where things go. And this has been sort of demonstrated in a bunch of things, but you might have seen 3 major seminal AI papers in the last sort of May issue of Nature that describe the AI co-scientists. Sort of, we scientists sort of slowly working at abolishing ourselves. Sounds a bit too much, but I think that's a bit the idea. And all 3 of them had biomedicine as the core example. Because, biomedical systems are just hard to model, in contrast maybe to a potentially more straightforward physical system where we have laws. And in all 3 of them, biomedicine was not just a key role, but quite a few of them used actually metrics from our lab to sort of see where things go. So what is action in science? It's doing the next experiment, finding the right patient, right? So it's about generating not just more data, which we know that all the AI systems need, but generating the right data. It sounds a bit trivial, but it's not just brute force, but going sort of in a targeted next step. And this matters a lot. We could sort of potentially use this to find a much more targeted cure for Alzheimer's, maybe even sort of solve aging with this. So a lot of money is pouring into that. And experimental space, the stuff of drugs that you want to explore, is infinitely large. So in order to actually find what you want to do, we need to now build this action model, this world model, and sort of move your next experiment towards exactly that region where you want to build the next drug. So the idea is very simple. The AI model proposes, the experiment validates, the new data updates the model, and you sort of do the circle, right? This iterative circle has been sort of a dream for a long time, but it really becomes a reality now. And I think this is going to be the story that I would expect us to see in the next few years, this moving from foundations to world models. So we're now asking, can an AI build these internal models? And this is what we're pursuing. For example, here at Helmholtz Munich, we're building what we're calling a virtual human, such a world model to describe across all scales, state, and where you would go. And we would be now connecting molecular biology up to the patient, right? And we're not only designing, for example, new peptides for microbial, or actually just for antibiotics, but I would say the ultimate goal is not just better disease management, but obviously it is prevention, right? So if you had such a simulator, you could actually build a model that predicts you longitudinally before the disease sets on, and hopefully, Herr Blum, I'm not sure you can solve it, we have patient records to actually sort of take care of our sort of previous health visits when something happens. And together with Daniel Rückert's team, we're actually building such a model, we call it RiskQ, where we can sort of see some early risk prediction things. This got actually funded by a Google.org grant, one of the sort of very sparse grants that have been just given a very few across the world. And the only 2 that got to Germany were actually with us in Munich. So very excited about this. The idea being that you can identify risk years before, right? You can intervene early enough to then actually stop bad things and do it in a personalized fashion. I mean, if you want to do prevention, every one of us knows that we should just sort of eat more healthy and do more sports, but who's doing that? To some extent. But, getting actually personalized advice, this is what the idea is. So my last point, I have a nice moniker for that. We should move from sick care to health care. Not bad, right? I was working on that. So let me finish. I think we need to capitalize on this second ChatGPT moment. Software for sure does it. You might have seen Anthropic sort of going through the roof with Claude Code, right? But I think we can do this, and to do so, we need ecosystems. I think this is why we're here, right? So our computational health center at Munich here is, I think, the largest health AI research center for sure in Europe, maybe beyond. But it's not just that. I think it's that we really work together. We have this M1 ecosystem, we have this one AI strategy. So the universities, LMU, TUM, the Max Planck, the Helmholtz, the university clinics, they're really teaming up to do stuff together. And we have the BAIOSPHERE, right, where we sort of do this not just in Munich, but importantly across Bavaria. So just example, we had HiCon running this week, largest applied AI conference in Europe. We had more than 700 people in the House of Communication. It was a true blast. We had a Staatsempfang, state reception in the Kaisersaal 2 days ago. This stuff was fun and sort of impressed our international partners. And I think this is no coincidence. We had been very gratefully having sustained investment into research, in particular into AI with our high-tech agenda, in particular in Bavaria. People are quite jealous when they look at our place. We have the investors, which should do even much more in health AI, just sort of on a side note. And I think there's a lot of stuff happening. And as much as I like health AI, I think it's clear that the future of health will not be built by AI researchers alone. It will not be built by physicians alone, and it will not be built by entrepreneurs. It needs to be done by all of them. It needs a community, and this is sort of what I think DLD, from what I understand, is offering very kindly to us.